You are watching T Radio V, radio in TV.
The Social Action Media Network and T Radio V present Creating Good Work Live with your hosts, Ron Schultz and Greg Franks.
Yes, hello. Welcome to Creating Good Work Live, where week in and week out we are dedicated to bringing you the finest in social innovators and social entrepreneurs solving many of our most pressing issues. I'm Ron Schultz.
And I'm Greg Franks.
And we've got a really great show for you today. The future of work and together with the future of education, back to back. And our guests are two of the country's most brilliant social innovators, and I am eager to get to it.
Yes.
So our first guest is Dave Jones, the executive producer and principal program manager for Microsoft's Envisioning team. Among his tasks are showing us not only what the future of work will look like, but as you will see, demonstrating the capabilities of that future that already exist in many forms today. We're very pleased that David could come down from Redmond, Washington, to be with us today. And so, David, welcome to Creating Good Work.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate the offer.
So I guess the place to actually begin is what is Microsoft's Envisioning team, and what do you do there?
Yeah, so it's kind of an unusual team that I work on. We're a small group of maybe 10 multidisciplinary designers, and we pretty much think exclusively about what the future of work will look like. Or as we think about it internally, like the future of productivity, meaning what do we do, why do we do it, and how do we do it? And our specific angle is, of course, what are the tools that we use? What's the software and hardware that we're going to use in the future to get things done? And so we go about this by looking very broadly at what's happening in the world. We absorb a lot of research. We look at technical trends, business trends, social trends, and we synthesize a view for what we think the future is going to look like in about 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then we take it a step further by building out the experiences we think people will want to have in that time frame. And we build vision videos, and we build experiential prototypes that we put on display in the Envisioning Center at Microsoft.
So we're watch one of the videos in a little while, but
what can we expect in the video that we will be seeing? Is there anything exciting we should be aware of?
Well, so let me give you some of the background. One of the things we see changing is people are doing more project-based work. Teams are getting more dynamic. And so what you'll see in the video is one of our characters is a dark-haired woman named Kat. She's she's a millennial. She's a marine biologist, and she doesn't have a full-time job. She does a bunch of different jobs. So she does volunteer work, and you'll see her go about her day and how she goes and finds a new project to work on. And we're also going to see another older worker named Lola. She's got long silver hair. You can't miss her. And she's representative of the aging workforce. She doesn't work full-time, but she works her job is to assemble these teams of experts to work on these specific projects around the world. And the story in the video is really about how Kat and Lola find each other and how they work together.
So tell me, David, why does Microsoft do this?
Well, so our mission is to empower individuals and organizations around the world, everybody, to be more productive or to achieve more, as we say. And we have multiple very successful businesses supplying products that help people do that. Office, most people are familiar with. Windows, people know about. We also have a bunch of server products and Azure, cloud services. But this is the company's raison d'etre, to help people be more productive. And so we're the people who think about where's this all going? What do we want the future to look like? And on one hand, our customers are very interested in hearing these perspectives and having intelligent conversations about the changes they're seeing in their businesses. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, Microsoft is a big company as well, and so we play a valuable role in helping internal teams articulate their own visions and making sure all the pieces fit together into a coherent whole. And we like to say we create this magnetic field around the organization that all the iron filings line up to, and sort of help bring this vision into existence.
So what does the future of work look like? Maybe that's the cue.
Why don't we start by taking a look at one of our videos?
Okay, we'll do that.
So as we said, Kat, marine researcher or marine biologist, she's wearing a holographic dive mask, so she sees holograms in her worldview. It's bringing her data relevant to her dive. Here she took a sample of some kelp. There she's tagging some wildlife. Here she's having a conversation with somebody about this sea anemone that she's looking at. As we pull back, we see that's actually a real-time translated conversation with a deaf girl, and she's got a classroom full of kids along with her on her dive. They're all learning about marine biology. And they're all pursuing the material in different ways, leveraging technology to whichever way is motivating them. Here the teacher's going to share some supplemental material with some of the kids to keep them interested. Meanwhile, Kat is done with her dive, so she's going to go stop for some lunch. This is her notebook computer. You get the menu for the restaurant appearing on the front. She's going to order some tea. She's going to open it up, and she'll get a larger screen space inside. This is a bunch of contextual feeds telling her what's going on in her life, telling her what's going on in the project she's working on. She's going to zoom out to look at the workspace here in a minute. This is a multi-user digital workspace. You can see her colleagues there working on the project with her. Now she's going to copy the data she took in her dive and add it to the workspace, and they can work on it together. And when she's ready to publish the report, the system's going to help her assemble all of the artifacts they're working on into a nice-looking, coherent report. This actually exists today. It's called Microsoft Sway. You can change the format. You can check with her colleague. This is all done before her tea arrives. Now this is Lola. She's going to come into work. She's going to take a call on her earpiece. And then she's going to move that conversation to a digital wall, which allows her to visualize the conversation, and her digital assistant brings in information relative to the call, or relevant to the call. She needs to find a new person for one of the teams she's assembling. So here's a visualization of potential candidates. Think of it as LinkedIn on steroids. She's going to compare a bunch of candidates, look at their skills profile, their network influence. She finds Kat's document, so she's going to pull it onto her tablet and dig into it. And of course, it's a rich, interactive document. She can dig down, question the data. Meanwhile, Kat's out for a night in the town with her friends. She carries this cool digital bracelet she can personalize to her outfit, or she can snap the pieces together to have a larger screen. And her digital agent is letting her know that Lola wants to meet with her. So she accepts the request and accepts her agent's offer to book a co-working space to go prepare for the discussion. The bracelet authenticates her at the door. She moves the contacts from her bracelet to the desk, connects her earbud to the desk, and now starts to dig into the information that Lola has sent her. So she can ask questions of the content. It'll connect her to the expert who knows the answer. When it detects that she's getting into the psychological state of flow, it turns off all notifications that help her concentrate. So now we see in Lola's feed that Kat's accepted her offer. She's excited. She's going to go talk to her dad on this auto-stereoscopic 3D display that makes it feel like he's in the same room with her. He's showing off his new bionic knee. Now we're going to see Kat at work with her new team members. They're going to rehydrate this digital blackboard with the problem they're working on, this big metabolic pathway. And they can use touch, they can use pen, they can use their own personal devices, they can use gestures, all simultaneously just to focus on getting the problem done. Lola here joins them for a moment, shares some new information with them. Their demand for kelp is going up. They need to increase their yield somehow. So she appears as an avatar on the screen. Kat's like, no problem, we got this. She's going to invoke a 3D model of the kelp farm. Allows her to visualize the nutrient currents in the ocean. That allows her to then optimize the size of the kelp farm to get the yield they need. A couple months later, here's a fisherman throwing in some underwater drones to survey the kelp farm. That gives them real-time data they can use for predictive analytics about how much kelp they're going to get. Team's happy. Kap's happy because her project's successful. She's getting new project offers coming in. She feels good because she's learning, she's growing, she's making money, and her work is helping make the world a better place. So that's a lot packed into 4 minutes, but it's a good conversation starter.
It's a lot that's packed in there, David. How much of it is real?
Well, that's the thing. Everything you see there is based on real technology. There's no science fiction. Everything in there, the science, the kelp farms, all based on real things that are happening in the world today.
That's amazing. So this is, what you guys have done is really kind of take things that already exist to demonstrate what the future is going to be about.
Could look like.
Could look like.
And this is the beginning of the conversation. Now we talk about, okay, what do you like? What do you not like? What would you change?
Uh-huh.
What should we build? How would this work?
And so those are the conversations that are going on inside of your lab.
Correct. We're actually in the process of trying to build out a lot of the things you saw in there.
That's very cool. It's very cool.
How soon could we expect to see it?
Well, that's
Or
the
participate
you
or
know, some
play
of these
with it?
things. I mean, so when this video came out, HoloLens had not been announced, but now you can put a headset on and see 3D holograms in your view. So that exists today, for example. Some things like the simulated holographic display, the table at the end, I don't know how commercially feasible that is, but the concept could also be done with HoloLens as well.
For the public that's interested in the product, how could they have access, or is it in the marketplace where they can purchase parts of that now?
Well, for the large interactive displays, that would be Microsoft Surface Hub. For the automatic document forming, that could be Microsoft Sway. For the holograms, that would be HoloLens.
All right.
So
Now I
you
will
could-
say that I have walked the Microsoft Envisioning Lab with David, and it is an extraordinary experience to see these things as he's going through and making this happen. We're going to take a quick break here because my how fly times, and we're going to be back on the other. We're going to be back on the other side in just a second. But we're here with David Jones from Microsoft's Envisioning Lab, and you're watching Creating Good Work Live.
And I hope you hear how you're affecting us already.
Great.
We'll be right back with more Creating Good Work Live.
The real question that needs to be asked, as well as answered, is what is it that we can do that is unique, that is impactful?
I'm Estella Pfeiffer. This is my brilliant bus.
We are going to empower every individual and every organization to do more and achieve more.
I had an idea, a bus that brings technology to kids that need it most. But I look in the mirror.
When I look in the mirror,
What do I see?
what do I see?
A brilliant mind.
Brilliant mind.
Looking back at me.
It's this process of continuous renewal, of showing courage in the face of reality.
If you dream big enough and believe in your dreams, you can make it happen.
Showing that courage in the face of opportunity.
Open your eyes. Los Angeles is one of the top destination cities for human trafficking. If you see something, say something. Call CAST. Your call remains anonymous. Interpreters available. Human trafficking is all around us. Open your eyes and let them lift theirs.
Welcome back to Creating Good Work Live on T-Radio V.
All right, so all a little blown away by the future. It's very cool, and we're back.
We are back. And would you be so kind as to share with us those more discussion about the three themes?
Yeah, so people ask us, okay, so explain to me what's going on in this video. How do I make sense of it? We like to talk about the three key themes, and this really drives our vision for the future of productivity, what we'd like to see happen. The first one is really, if we're going to solve bigger, more important problems in the world, it's going to be through enabling people to work together in new and better ways. So it's all about helping people work together. And I think you saw in the video a bunch of examples of that. For example, Kat taking the classroom of kids on the dive with her, seeing through her eyes. We saw Lola talking to her dad on the autostereoscopic display. We saw her appearing as an avatar on the screen. We saw Kat working in the digital workspace with her colleagues. These are all examples of new ways we can help people work together. The second big theme sort of speaks to the explosion of data or information we have in our world. On one hand, it's overwhelming, and we need technology to help protect our attention. Human attention is the new scarce resource. And so you see things like contextual interfaces or digital assistants, which basically bring you tools and information at the time of need based on understanding where you are and what you're doing. And you also saw examples of tools that allow you to leverage that information, to work with data in real time, integrated into your work processes. So for example, Lola, when she was looking for a candidate to fill out open position, created an on-the-fly visualization of potential candidates. Or we saw Kat invoke that 3D model of the kelp farm and sort of manipulate it using gestures in the air. These are all examples of working with very rich forms of data. And then the third key theme, as technology is automating more and more of the routine work that we do, what is left behind is, by definition, creative work. And I don't just mean artistically creative. I mean problem solving, figuring things out, learning, figuring out what to do. And so we need a full range of tools to support everything from the inception of idea all the way through to the completion of a project. And how we achieve that takes many forms. Some of the ideas you see in the video, one is simply that technology works the way you want it to. Whether you want to use touch or voice or pen or eye gaze or speech, whatever. All of these modalities work independently and together so that the computer's doing the work to understand what you want rather than you having to figure out how to use the computer. We also talk about another thing we call mobility of experience, where you can move your phone call from your earpiece to the wall to another room, or you can rehydrate any room with your workspace and sort of pick up a meeting that you had been having for the past 3 weeks or something. All these ideas are designed to help people stay in the state of creative flow, where you sort of where you're so into your work and getting so much done you lose track of time. Right. That's ultimately the kind of experience we're trying to create.
Rehydrating, the watery image of that transference is that space of remaining in that creative environment. It's real interesting that it's watery space.
And the other thing I'll add is that we think that if we achieve these things, we will also achieve a goal of making work more human. Sort of eliminating the soul-crushing work that people don't like doing, and enabling more of the fun, empowering, rewarding work.
So we're not going to be taken over by automatons. We're not going to be taken over by robots who are going to be doing all the work, and it's not going to be totally automated in front of us, huh?
Well, I think that you raise a very interesting, timely issue. We are seeing incredible advances in AI or artificial intelligence, although that is a bit of a misnomer sometimes. It's really just our ability to build algorithms that can do classes of problems that we never thought computers can do, like driving cars, translating languages on the fly.
We're still having trouble with driving cars, aren't we?
Yeah, but we're making such rapid advances now that it's very easy to imagine that in the near future we're going to see a lot of routine tasks that were once done by people, done by computers. And I think that's a key distinction. It's not jobs that will be eliminated, it will be tasks that are eliminated, and so the jobs will change.
So you don't think there'll be a cultural reluctance to move in that direction?
I'm sure there will be. There will always be some people who want it to go back to the way things were. But I think we also have to look at the upside of what this technology will enable. These new advances will enable us to solve problems and do things that were never possible in the past. So it's actually, there's a lot of potential to build a much better world in many ways. And that's why a lot of people are excited about the changes they see coming.
What about training support? Is there going to be training support for all ages?
Well, I think yes. I mean, if you look at how fast the world is changing and how quickly certain skills can become outdated, I think we do need to be looking at how do we equip both our kids to be successful in the future, but also how do we keep adults, how do they keep their skills economically viable as well? So I think education is one of those things that everyone agrees is important to invest in. And I know Microsoft places a lot of value in that and puts a tremendous amount of money into educational efforts as well.
How soon will we be looking at that?
It's happening now. I mean, I think I just read an article this morning about where the Twinkie factory, the Hostess, was shut down, and then they reopened it, but it's all with robots now and vastly fewer people.
So it's artificial cream made by artificial.
Maybe it's a terrible example, but it happened to be on my mind. But it is. We are automating work that was done by humans in the past.
So what about remote work? If you can work from anywhere,
why go to work?
Why go to work?
So that's an issue that comes up all the time, and it's kind of confused us for a while too. But I think the key there is understanding that humans evolved to communicate face-to-face. And there's so much nonverbal communication that happens. And if you are in a creative part of a project, you need to rely on all those subtle cues to sort of to share information, to basically work collaboratively on that problem together, to figure things out. It's very hard to do that kind of stuff when you can't see someone or you can't read their body language. So what we're seeing is that creative work benefits tremendously by people being co-located. But at the same time, when you move to more of an execution phase in a project, and every project has times you just put your head down and do the work, then you can benefit from the lack of distractions, not having to travel. And so I think there's a balance.
Yeah, there's something, I think, certainly around that creative interaction that's essential to, when in a hydrated space, you want that interaction, you want that mobility of thought, and so that something new can emerge out of that.
Exactly. You need the fluidity of thought. The tools need to support that. We talk about smart spaces that help support that as well.
So, one issue that Greg and I have been talking quite a bit about is how does this future that you're describing show up in underserved communities? And how do we ensure that the future isn't leaving anybody behind?
That's a great question. I think ultimately answer goes to education. I think we need to make sure we're equipping everybody with the skills they need to be successful in the future. But if we break it down a little more, I think on one hand, there's the access to the devices themselves, and I think we seen a lot of progress in that area as cost is coming down. There's connectivity, which is a challenge, and we see companies like Facebook with their planes, and Google with their balloons, and Microsoft with the TV white space, all investing in solutions there. There's still a bit of a gap around equipping teachers with the skills to leverage technology, so I think we need more investment there. But so ultimately, it comes back to education, in my mind.
Then tell us, what motivates you in this career that's so fabulous?
First, I'm a curious person, so I love the fact that I get to go to work and learn something new every day.
Yes.
But as you learn more about the world, you realize, you see the problems in the world, you see the environmental problems, you see the injustice, the inequity, and you realize that everyone is essentially the same. We have the same dreams and hopes and goals and emotions, yet there's so much inequity, and it just seems, it seems wrong. And so I feel a desire to want to help change that. And on the other hand, I also see the tremendous potential of all this technology coming. And so I'm very hopeful that I could perhaps play a small role in helping bring about this better world that we all know is possible, which is more just, more equitable, which is sustainable, and where everybody is able to contribute to their ability and lead a dignified life.
Well, David, thank you for making the trip down here for this. This was great. I think it really opens up this conversation, as we know, in ways that are just truly exciting. And we thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with Lucien Vattel of GameDesk and talk about the future of education. Quite a day.
There's more to come on Creating Good Work Live.
The real question that needs to be asked, as well as answered, is what is it that we can do that is unique, that is impactful?
When Bray was 11 months old, he was fitted for his first pair of prostheses.
We are going to empower every individual and every organization to do more and achieve more.
We'd use Microsoft technology to analyze Braylon's gait mechanics.
It's this process of continuous renewal, of showing courage in the face of reality.
I think the technology has changed Braylon's life by opening up the world for him.
Showing that courage in the face of opportunity.
And now here's Ron and Greg.
Well, welcome back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah.
So, and we're gonna take off from that part too. So, our next guest is Lucien Vattel, who's the CEO of GameDesk, a nonprofit organization reshaping K through 12 education through games and game development. He is also the founder and co-director of the Playmaker School, a new approach to the way we teach and learn. I will also say that Lucien is one of the most innovative minds working in the world of education today. I know this because my wife, one of the world's great educators, worked for Lucien and came home absolutely every day inspired to be on such a cutting edge of education. We're very pleased you could be with us today, Lucien. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk about the nature of the work at GameDesk and what game, what you're up to there.
So the work that we do is really based on the fundamental idea that one of the most powerful ways that a person can learn is through directly experiencing and interacting with the content. And the last 5 years of our work has been an exploration in all the different approaches and ways that one can interface with reality and content, or the content that we would like someone to understand, or allow a person to understand themselves. We experimented with, we explored, and that entailed everything from building a variety of video games that explore different concepts in science and math and English, to socio-emotional skills that help kids manage their anger, their frustration. It leverages biofeedback technologies that allow them to become more aware. To redesigning the school model, where we took a school and reimagined it and tried to design what it would look like if every day was play, serious play. Mm-hmm. And so all of these explorations allowed us to cultivate a new knowledge base, a new set of best practices, a new set of technologies, and a new way of thinking that help indoctrinate a new generation of teachers and kids into a new way of being that ironically enough, I believe the way that we used to be taught. If you go way back to the days of tribal learning, mm-hmm. The forest was your teacher. And you interacted with the world, and there were people there to facilitate and support and offer you guidance. So I think we're actually moving back through technology, through the new emerging world, to create schools and technologies that help create opportunities for us to become who we are.
So within the structure of this natural world, what are your superpowers?
Within my superpowers is I'm a natural born visionary. And what is a visionary? A visionary, since I was a kid, every single thing that I saw, I was thinking about how it could be better. And it wasn't just thinking, oh, that should be better. Whatever ability that a person has to be able to have a foresight and ability to see further out and to imagine what something can be, those are qualities of a visionary. And I've always had that. And most of my life has been figuring out how to take that natural skill and actually work with creatives, developers, people, teachers, to actually put that talent to use in a way that actually manifests something that is of service.
Then Lucien, what is your vision for future education?
Well, my vision for the future of education is technologies that immerse and allow people to interact with all different forms of content that are natural and intuitive. We built a game that helps kids understand aerodynamics, which is a college-level concept, and we proved that you can teach that to fifth graders if you build a more intuitive framework. So my vision is more intuitive frameworks for learning and platforms that completely democratize the education system as a whole. That is allowing everybody to have, regardless of where they are, these guys here, wherever you go around the world, they may not have this, but they have a form of this. Most people. And so the reality is that we can either choose to be taking advantage of that reality, or we can choose not to. And I think we should be taking advantage of the reality, because I think through that we have an opportunity to democratize and allow people access to whatever form of interest and learning they wish to pursue.
So we've got a video that kind of demonstrates how you've been actualizing that at GameDesk, and I think if we roll that, you'll get a better idea of the kinds of things that you're up to, and we can talk a little bit more after on the other side of the video.
Beautiful.
Now I can actually see how the Earth is forming and everything.
There, that's a good orbit right there.
Wait, what if we just give them 2 different orbit cycles?
That's what I was trying to say. I think that works.
Right now we're trying to make oxygen and sugar so our planet can survive through winter.
They collide with the wings, the air molecules, and it increases the lift vector.
You can't touch any of the red outline of the maze. The ball gets smaller and bigger based on your heart rate. You have to calm yourself down, but you're anxious to get past it. It practices how to calm you down, so then when you're in the real world, you can calm yourself down the same way that you did when you were playing the game.
First, we drew the number line out, but this time we're making it. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 1. What I'm gonna do is make the floor plan 5 by 5. That's the area.
By using the quadratic formula, I can determine the vertex and which angle it's jumping to.
Like making a video game in 2 hours is like very extraordinary. Like simply like cool in every way.
Lucien.
Yes.
How were you drawn into education?
Well, I was drawn in it through, trauma. That's
the way a lot of people go out of it.
So, for me, I just couldn't help. When education worked for me, it worked for me. But so more often than not, it did not for me. And it wasn't really until college that I was able to position myself in a way that I was able to self-direct myself in a way and choose the type of professors that I wanted. And I was the type of guy, I spent way much more time in college than I should have, mostly because I took a bunch of courses that had nothing to do with my degree, but I was determined to take those courses because I was interested in them. But when I was young, I didn't have that. And I often felt that, I'd have one day where we'd have this amazing day. I'd learn something that really activated me. But it turns out that was just that day. Or you know, I'd learned something that the content really fascinated with me, but at the end of that week, we were moving on to another chapter. And so there wasn't opportunities to remain in activated, engaged spaces, is what I noticed when I was young. And I also noticed that the way in which knowledge, the content was structured and the teaching was structured, you know, there weren't opportunities to further explore these avenues. And then the final piece of it, the biggest traumatic piece, was that I believed that for every, at least where I grew up, teachers were very well educated in their domains, but they were not educated when it came to matters of the heart. And a lot of the dysfunction that I saw in my schools, the schools that I went to, when it came to the way kids are socialized, the elements of bullying that existed in the school frameworks, none of us were being helped or mentored or supported on becoming human beings. We were becoming learning machines.
Right. So talk a little bit about the current state of Western education. I mean, the ground out of which you're working, but at the same time, what you're extending beyond is that current state. So describe the current state.
Yeah, I think we, I feel like Monty Python would say something like this, but I feel like we're in a state of really brilliant parrots, where we've got, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but we have a state where people are very intelligent in their domains of expertise when they're developed and such, but I think on a whole, we don't have a holistic, full spectrum culture of learning. And that I think that, you know, we keep, we're caught in a game, to be quite honest. And we keep, you know, a lot of these kids, they're put through this process, and it's high stakes, and it's all supposed to go somewhere. And a whole big ball of anxiety later, as well as a whole lot of money spent and time. You know, you get to wherever you are, and you realize that you're not even doing what you want to be doing. I think that we need to be focusing on developing the person. And what does that mean? And how can we think about that? And what parts of it can school help with that? And which parts can the family help with that? And which parts can technology help with that?
I think we see that in the level of dissatisfaction that surfaces throughout our society as folks get older, grow older, because they don't have that basis. We're going to take a short break here, but we're going to come back with Lucien and GameDesk, and here on Creating Good Work Live here at T Radio V. And thanks for watching us today.
Beautiful.
Watching Creating Good Work Live on T Radio V.
We have to keep orbiting the sun! Meteorite! Asteroid!
I'm starting a political action committee. Being able to make up your own narrative and be able to incorporate all of these terms, it was really, really fun.
I am a religious scholar and an astronomer. I teach the Muezzin how to read the sun so that he could pick the perfect times of prayer.
If a man rent his boat to a sailor and the boat is wrecked or goes aground, the sailor shall give the owner of the boat another boat as compensation.
Most anti-bullying efforts rely heavily on bystanders to take action, leaving your child with no protection. The No app aims to change that. Now your child can summon the assistance of a policewoman to tell the bully no, and you get alerted in real time with a map of your child's location. With video evidence, the bully's parents can be confronted, and school officials can be forced to take action. You get increased peace of mind, and your child gets increased self-confidence. So we're gonna take this conversation in a little different direction. Correct?
Several years ago, you were invited to the Clinton Global Initiative. We were so proud of you for that invitation that you had received. Would you tell us about that experience?
Well, the Clinton Global Initiative is really fascinating because it's what what it really is. It's a super think tank environment where I have to hand it to them. They created an incredible amount of structure. They created a great container for people to discuss real issues and to work through rapid fire solutions, and then get people to make commitments around those efforts. And people felt a real synergy there. I felt a lot of synergy there, and it actually was an affirmation for me that first of all, there's a lot of people who want to make change happen, and we need more vehicles. We just need more vehicles for people to convene and to exchange ideas, and then some sort of activation element, whether it's money, a grant, an agreement, whatever it is, there needs to be an action. I've also seen other environments where there was a lot of convening but very little action. Mm-hmm. So it was good to see that their insistence that by the end of that convention, there were people who were going to absolutely commit to whatever that effort would be. And I believe, I don't know how many they had at the one I went to, but I remember there was a whole day of commitments, by the third or fourth day.
Did it influence on you how we should change our thinking about education?
Well, it allowed me to see that a lot of the people who there's a big disconnect between the teacher on the ground and the theorist in the academic silo, and the researcher, and the policymaker. And I think that it's been good to see folks like the people that put together that event, and people that I've seen other Gates conferences that were set up in this way. There's a great festival called Big Ideas Fest, which is a really powerful event that really works hard to make sure that people come away with something powerful, something they didn't have before. So the teacher comes away with something they didn't have before. The researcher has, but in reality, I'm still absolutely convinced that the entire model, it still assumes that something needs to be fixed. I am convinced that the entire model is broken. And that it's not about making subtle improvements. It's about completely looking at what is an education, what does a human being need in order to be resilient, productive, fulfilled, self-directed. These fundamental truths that are a reality need to be, in my view, the new ground upon which the structure of this new paradigm is created. And I'm absolutely convinced of that, after doing this work.
How will technology affect this situation?
Well, I think that we're already seeing how immersion and interactivity, not just GameDesk work, but there's been an incredible amount of work that has progressed the notion of what is learning in the past 5 years. There's been all kinds of products out there, and there's all been kinds of games, and they're all proof positive that there's more than one way. So I see that as a continual trend, and I think with the advent of virtual reality, we're going to see a whole nother quantum leap in terms of what's possible. In terms of I think that the role, if you're asking me, Lucien, what do you see as school 2025? I really believe that the one thing that schools have that no piece of technology will ever have is that it is a place of bringing people together, and it is a place of human relationships, and the relationship between people and learning, and the process and the magic that happens in that space. And we should never, ever, no matter what technology is built, we should never discount the power of that, and we should never lose that. I do believe that the role of the school is going to shift, and that what we're going to see is going to be very interesting, because we're going to see new platforms, we're going to see new technologies that are going to completely blow people's minds about how people can even learn. Okay, and as with anything, the schools are going to be a mirror to that. And so there's going to be learning that happens in your pocket. There's going to be learning that happens online. There's going to be learning that happens anywhere and everywhere outside of the school. And there's going to be learning that happens in the school. And those ecosystems are going to try, well, they will look to achieve balance, and they will find their place in this new world. And I think that's what's going to be. It's literally a new garden of crops.
Yeah.
And we'll see how they form together. This is my belief.
So, obviously, you're going to run into some challenges in bringing this vision forward. You have the traditionalists who are going to be holding on as hard as they possibly can, as we've seen again and again. In fact, not only holding on, trying to bring us back into eras that have long gone. What kind of challenges do you see in front of you about to move this forward?
I think the current structure of decision making in our school systems is a big barrier to innovation. Mm-hmm. I think the ability to effectively communicate what's best for a school and to go through all those processes creates quite a bit of slowdown. And you know, for us, you can see everything that you saw in that video. That exists. That's not a special effect. Mm-hmm. Those kids are really learning that way. So the question is, why is that in every school? Who would disagree with that? And if so, why? And that's a conversation worth having. Right. However, I believe, and this is why GameDesk and the board, our board, has pushed to launch. We're a nonprofit, but we're definitely launching a for-profit, and we're moving into the for-profit space, because at the end of the day, parents are big decision makers, and they're consumers. And if you have a lot of people purchasing and engaging in technologies, and they're voting with their dollars, and they're voting with what they log on to and how they engage, that is a voice that no bureaucracy can control.
Well, this has been quite a discussion, and one that we should probably continue again, because there's certainly a lot here. I think both discussions today are
incredible.
Were incredible in terms of what the future is in front of us and what today looks like. Yes. So thank you, Lucien, for being with us today and creating Good Work Live. It was really wonderful to have you here, and for all of you to get a chance to see what the future is in both these areas. And that's going to be it for us today at Creating Good Work Live. Thanks again. We'll see you next week. We'll have another show that'll blow your mind.
Creating Good Work Live is a production of the Social Action Media Network on T-Radio V.
You are watching